Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day and welcome to the channel. So today's video is going to be a bit different from what my normal stuff is. If you watched many of my videos over the years, you probably noticed something quite a few different times in the garage, and that's going to be these RC cars. So I've got all the nitros over here. On this wall, I've got all the electric ones. And today we're going to be heading over to the local hobby shop to pick up a new one. So we're going to head over there, and then when I get back here, I'll show you what I got. All right, so here it is, the Mini XRT. Gotta be honest, this thing looks awesome. It's got a lot more weight to it than I was expecting. For a Mini, it really is pretty stout feeling. Hopefully that translates into the durability. I think the color schemes on these bodies, they just knocked them out of the park. There's a ton of detail, and to me, just really cool looking. Everything about it is just a smaller version of the actual XRT, which is probably my favorite RC car right now. The only thing that is a little annoying is that kind of glaring detail right there, which a lot of people have pointed out that the original models that they sent out to YouTubers to review did not have this cut out. So I was pretty upset going into this about having that cut out kind of last minute. Now having it and looking at it, the cutout is done extremely well. It's clearly not done by hand, which almost makes me wonder if the cutout was always the design, always the plan, and just the pre-production models are what they sent to some of these YouTubers. Because it would surprise me for them to have that quickly been able to cut all these models out. The only thing I don't like about it is these cuts are pretty sharp corners, which is definitely going to cause it to crack over time, but I think I have a solution for that I'll show here in a few minutes. Under the body, I'm not going to go over a ton of the details because there's so many videos out already going over these details. There's no sense in being repetitive. Awesome that it comes with a $40 battery, and everything looks really accessible. Nice shocks. Do wish they were adjustable, but that's okay. But I know there's been a lot of talk and comparisons on this to other vehicles, mainly the Wrestler 4x4, just because of the price. But in this video, I'm going to be comparing this to vehicle that I think this should be compared to, because this is a Mini. It's not a full-size 10 scale car. And I think it should be compared to other Minis on the market. So for that, I'm going to be comparing it to my 1/16 scale Mini Revo. I'm going to do speed comparisons. I'm going to take them off road, jump them, bash them, probably break both of them, and just see if they finally improved on the Mini Revo. I got this within about the first month of it being released. And so I've had this one here for about 15 years. I've broken it in half, ripped things off of it. It's been an awesome car. Not the easiest to work on, but there's just something about that Revo type of suspension setup. It even has more ground clearance than the XRT because of the suspension setup the way it is. Let's see if I can show that. So even being a little smaller, it's sitting a bit higher, even extended on this. So it's just kind of awesome the way this Revo suspension, I know it's kind of a thing of the past and they've discontinued the full-size Revo since, but this thing's always been really stout. There's a few upgrades on this overstock that I think are necessary to do, and so that it will be running with those upgrades. It has the RPM A-arms. It has RPM axle carriers in there, and the reason I do that is because the stock axle carriers do wear out, and you get a lot of slop in the suspension and the steering, all that. It's got the original factory electronics. I've just added a heatsink is all. Original servo. The only electronics that I have switched is the transmitter, and I actually just did that because I know the new Mini Revo comes with the TQI transmitter, and this had the original ancient TQ transmitter. So I thought for comparison's sakes, I probably should have a gyro on this, since the Mini XRT comes with a gyro as well. But when they released the Mini Max, I already had this and I knew this thing just absolutely rips. I've actually never once had to replace a differential on it, but I do run it mostly on 2S because it's an animal on 2S anyways. But I'm excited to see, have they finally upped the bar over the Mini Revo, and hopefully in this video we'll figure that out. All right, so going back to what my plan is for these holes in the hood, I'm not really worried about stuff getting in there because, you know, it's going to happen either way. But it does take away some of the strength on this body. And so my plan is, I got a little bit of this kind of metal screen, and I've cut it up and bent it a little bit so that you can kind of fit it in here like that. And then I'm going to hot glue it in place, and then kind of just covers up that hole. I think it looks kind of cool. It looks like it's supposed to be there. I really have no problem with holes in the hood. I've driven a lot of nitro cars. They've always been like that. All right, so I did a quite professional hot glue job in here. But I gotta be honest, I don't know. I think it looks pretty cool. I don't know, I might even like it more than having no cutout at all. Just gives it more of a little bit of a race look. A lot of the off-road race trucks, they have that screen in front to block for rocks, things like that. But I think it's pretty cool looking. In hindsight, might not have been a great idea to use metal here, because if this does get pushed in, it's gonna bend versus flex if this was a little bit of a softer material. All right, so now we're gonna take both these out and do a speed test. I am gonna be running the 2S battery that this came with, and then a 2S battery that I have for this that fits in the battery trays. For the 3S speed test, I have a battery that fits in this tray here, and I'm gonna be running it on both cars. So I can put a much larger battery into this than this, but you can put 2 batteries in this, run them in parallel. But I just want to try to keep the results as close to the same as possible using the same batteries to see if we've improved on the speed on this over this. All right, so first we're going to run the Mini XRT on 2S and see what we get for a top speed. You got me in a picture? So topped out at 42 miles an hour with the included 2S battery. It does track really straight, pretty easy to control. It is also 100 degrees outside today, so the temperature of the batteries really shouldn't be affecting any of these in terms of lowering the speed for it being too cold.
Oh yeah. Seriously?
Yeah.
The whole time?
Yeah. Now we're testing out the Mini XRT on 3S. This battery is much smaller, like I said, than what you can fit into this car, but it'll be the same battery that'll be running with the Mini Revo here in a minute.
He's got to make sure he gets all of his footage with this one first.
Driving now on 3S, it was definitely a little more difficult to keep going in a straight line than I was expecting. It just felt like sometimes the steering wouldn't self-center, but still was able to hit 57 miles an hour, which is higher than what the posted speed is. Moving on to the Revo, we're going to be running this on 2S for the first pass. I definitely feel a little bit of a balance issue with the tires. I don't know if I got something in them, so the speed could be hindered a little bit by that. I think it's supposed to be around 35 miles an hour top. Actually, looking at the specs on their site, it is listed at 30 miles an hour on 2S and 50 with 3S. I was able to hit a top speed of 33 miles an hour. Here we go for the 3S pass. This is going to be running the exact same battery as the Mini XRT. There goes the GPS. We were able to hit 50 miles an hour, so with both cars, we hit all the speeds that Traxxas claims.
Yeah.
Driving this thing off-road is a ton of fun. The tires just seem to hook up really well. Usually with stock tires, especially on like the E-Revo, you get a lot of tire spin, and it's difficult to control off-road. This thing really hooks well. It responds well to correcting on the steering. It tracks nice. It does land pretty hard, but that's not totally surprising given the limited suspension travel you have on a Mini. Yeah, sure. Right here, I'm starting to notice that as it lands, it just seems to land harder all of a sudden, and it really just wants to flip upside down. I wasn't too sure why it all of a sudden started to do that, or if it was just bad luck, but I think I figured that out once I took the shell off and looked a little bit closer at the car. I did end up shutting down right here due to overheating. This was on the first battery that I was running and only on 2S, but it's also 100 degrees out today, and so I'm not totally surprised. You shouldn't really be driving these a whole lot in the temperatures that I'm driving them in.
Oh, did it? But it has 3 batteries. Oh, okay.
So now moving on to the Mini E-Revo. I noticed immediately that I definitely have to be a lot more ginger with the throttle because it does want to just wheel spin and spin out, which is something I've always noticed with the car. You do get used to it over time, but off-road it does make it a little bit more difficult to hit ramps at higher speed and be a little more precise. That's definitely something that this one struggles with more than the Mini XRT. That being said, the Mini Revo does seem to almost jump a little bit better than the Mini XRT. It's a little more difficult to control in the air, but it does seem to land a little bit softer. I don't know if that's due to the cantilever suspension that it has, or because it is just a lighter vehicle. But it was something that I just noticed while I was driving. Come back up here. Come back up here.
Riley, come back up here, babe.
Good job. So this is actually one of my friends that got a Mini XRT on the exact same day as me. And here's the first jump with it, making sure
First
to break
body
it in
rip
properly.
off.
All right, so I just got back from the first bash with this, and I gotta say, I think Traxxas delivered with this one. The car really, I think, met everything that they say it's gonna do. It hit the speed in 2S and in 3S. Seems to be really durable. Jumps nice, tracks really nice, really easy to drive. A ton of fun, but it's not all perfect. There are a few things. When it comes to any damage from today, so far all I've noticed is this rear shock. It looks like I maybe bent the spring here, which I don't know if I've ever bent a spring. Let me see here. I don't know if you can see that very well. But yeah, the spring's all tweaked. I think that's from the one I kind of went off the ramp a little sideways, and it landed all right on this corner. In the slow-mo, it definitely folded this whole corner in. I also just realized once I got the spring off that I did bend the shock shaft as well. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's fairly tweaked to the side. Still usable. But like I said, that was a really bad landing. Totally my fault. Can't really blame the car a whole lot for that because it came down from pretty high up right on that corner. Everything's going to break at some point or bend. Well, just as I was about to finish up the video, I noticed something else on this. I think I have bent every shock on the truck. This one's got a pretty good bend right there. You can see it doesn't really want to go much higher than that, and then it sticks up. That one's definitely bent. This one's got a bend right there in the middle as well. I can feel it grab right there. Let's see, this one got a bend in it. That one still feels okay. So I've bent 3 of the 4 shocks on this, and I only had, I want to say, 1 bad crash. So it's a little bit disappointing. Looks like so far shocks are definitely going to be the weak point on this. And unfortunately, shocks aren't the cheapest things to upgrade always. So now I want to get on to the few cons that I did find about this truck, because it's absolutely not a perfect truck. First of all, number one thing, and I think it's probably pretty obvious based off of what they did with the body, cutting these holes, it absolutely runs hot. Today, it was right at 100 degrees, I think 101 maybe. And so the fact that it was running hot is not totally surprising. I did have it shut down, or do a thermal shutdown just on 2S. I never even did 3S outside of the speed run because I knew it would shut down. I did preemptively order a motor and ESC heatsink and fan to throw on here, but this definitely overheated, whereas my 16th E Revo that is also running the high-speed gearing, it never thermaled or shut down or anything. It ran the whole time. Still got hot, but not enough to where it shut itself down. So that's, I don't think that's surprising really to anybody. The other thing too is, for whatever reason, the steering would get stuck, and then it would take, you'd almost have to hit the gas, and then it would take a second, and then it would correct itself back. I don't know if that's from the TSM or something. I had it turned, I was kind of playing with it, turning it down to see if it would change it. It didn't really seem to change that a whole lot. Just thought that was kind of strange. I don't know if it's a servo thing, a car thing, electronics, or what. But it was just a little something I noticed. The other thing, and it's not just on this, I have another friend that got one of these the exact same day, ran it for the first time today as well. And when you hit the gas, you see how quickly those tires, those wheels stop? Let me show you. It just feels like the gear mesh is way too tight on this. And the way this whole system is, it kind of has those preset holes in there for setting the gear mesh, but it makes it very difficult to control when you jump it, because if you're not giving it throttle, and I don't mean like of course, if you just let off with any car, they're going to want to nosedive. But the second it got airborne, it wanted to nosedive every single time. And I just think this gear mesh, it's way too tight. Whereas on this, Revo, where I've been able to set the gear mesh, it's perfect. And you don't have any of that where it feels like the brakes are just automatically being applied. So it's very strange. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like it has to be the gear mesh or something in the differential. And I don't know exactly how to swap that because of these preset holes in there. But if anyone else is noticing that problem too, please let me know. I don't know if it's just mine, although my friends was the same way. So now on to the positives for this truck. I mean, this thing really is just an absolute beast. A lot of times with these minis, because they're light and they're small, they're difficult to drive off-road. You hit bumps and it kind of unsettles them, or the tires just don't grip very well, so they just get really squirrely and out of control. I do have that problem a lot with the Mini Revo. It soaks up bumps fairly well for its size, but it does basically lose traction and spin out pretty easily if you get on it hard. I didn't have near the problem with this, or when it did start to spin out a little bit, you could correct it and save it. And so I don't know if that's due to just the weight of the car itself, because it's substantially heavier than the Revo, or the wider stance or what, because there is a bit of a difference between the two. So we'll line them up side by side. So you've got, let me see, sidewall, at least 1.5 inches, probably close to 2 inches on the width difference there. Wheelbase is not a ton different. You're talking, I mean, maybe 1/4 inch is all on the wheelbase. It just has bigger tires here. So really, this is, I think, pretty comparable to the Mini Revo. I mean, this is absolutely a Mini, even though it is a little bit of a larger Mini, especially compared to like the Hypergos and things like that. But I think those are kind of in their category of their own. Now, when it comes to this versus getting the Mini Max, at least right now, unless you're getting it for a child that's only going to be running at a slow speed, the Mini Max almost makes no sense now this is released. Yes, this is more expensive, I think $100 more than the Mini Max, but if you just did the cheapest route that you could when it comes to upgrading to try to get to this vehicle, using the power up program, things like that, in order to get to the 3S system inside, the TQI radio, which I do think isn't that much better than just the standard TQ versus the TQI. It's not a huge difference. The gyro is nice though. But you're $129 for motor ESC. I think you're about the same if you go hobby wing, just because the power up program does save you a little bit of money. You're, I think, 59 or 60 bucks, something like that, to upgrade the TQI radio. This does have the built-in center diff, which is, I think, $45. Plus you have to, I believe, change a few other parts in the Mini Max in order to add that center diff. So really, for $100 more, you're getting around $250 worth of upgrades into this car over that. So I think that part of the price, to me at least, is justified. It really seems like, for the most part, Traxxas did listen to the people and the complaints on the Mini Max, and it seems like they've done a lot. I think the worst part of this whole thing really is going to be battling the heat with this. I think gearing it down a little bit and just dealing with a little bit slower speed. 40 miles an hour off-road is really fast. I think I hit 57 with the 3S. That's not really a speed that you can very easily use with a Mini off-road anyways. So I think gearing it down if you wanted to run 3S makes a lot more sense than just running it the way that it is. Now, the real question is, that we started this video with, is does it beat the Mini E-Revo VXL? So kind of in comparison for the Bash today, I did not break anything on this. That being said, I've broken a lot of parts on this, and so I've replaced it with parts that are much more durable, and now I don't have the issues that I had before. Parts are super cheap. These RPM arms, I think, are 15 bucks for the entire front set and 15 for the entire rear set. The axle carriers are also cheap. I think that's a really big deal to upgrade on these so that your wheels aren't flopping around. The biggest difference is the XRT is made with much higher quality parts. When you look at all the different joints in the XRT versus this, all of these joints here, all the suspension links, all the toe links, they're all wear parts. And what I mean by that is stock, these all come with plastic hollow balls inside there that connect all these links together. and they just break. They wear out, they create a lot of slop. So I've replaced all those with steel hollow balls. I don't know if you can even see, probably not. But inside there, all these different joints, it's now steel hollow balls, and it's made a big difference. They are very cheap, but this XRT already comes with all that stuff pre-installed, so it's not something that's going to wear out over time. The other thing too is there are places on this vehicle where bushings are used instead of bearings. So on all these rocker arms, the pivot points, it's all bushings. They do wear out. Oh, feels like I lost the oil out of that shock already. That's another big problem with these, is these shocks absolutely drain oil. I just rebuilt everything on this car before testing it so that it was as head-to-head as possible to a newer e-Revo. And so the shocks leak really bad. As from what I can see, the new ones have those same shocks as well. It's not a huge deal, but it's something that you do have to rebuild fairly often. Also, this does not come stock with a center diff. I've never run it with a center diff. I do have a center diff, but I've never broken a differential on this vehicle because I typically do run it on 2S, which is a lot of fun and very fast with this VXL, I think 3M system. Next, servo. This servo is tiny. It's really fast. It's a lot faster than the Mini XRT, but it is plastic geared and small, whereas the Mini XRT is all metal gear. Other than that, I think there's bushings in the main servo saver down in here, which does create a ton of slop in your steering. That's been replaced on this one to bearings, really cheap, but just another one of those things that is an item that is necessary to replace on this vehicle, whereas hopefully it's not something you're going to be needing to replace on the XRT. This also does come with a nickel metal hydrate battery, whereas the XRT comes with the 2S battery. The nickel metal hydrate battery is pretty much a throwaway unless it's for a small child to drive the vehicle or something like that. Lithium, way better to run in these. So with that being said, do I think the XRT is better than the Mini Revo? I do think it is better. If I was going to pick one of them today, I'd probably pick the Mini XRT, even though I think there are benefits that the Mini Revo have over the XRT. All in all, I think this is a much better built car. I think it'll last longer. It has a lot less wear parts on it and just has a lot more stability to it as well. The big question on this vehicle though is, and that everyone's really asking is this worth the price? It's not cheap. It's definitely up there in price. It's, I believe, the most expensive Mini out there. But I do believe it is one of the highest quality Minis out there. And, you know, people say a lot about the Traxxas tax. Well, this Mini Revo right here is over 15 years old. I can still readily get parts at any Traxxas dealer whenever I need to, and they're super cheap. They still make all the parts, whereas I have other vehicles that are only a few years old and you can hardly get parts for them because they've discontinued the model and there's no part support. So there is something to be said about paying a little bit extra, knowing that this car 15, 20 plus years down the road can still actually be functional. Hopefully you like this video. I know it's a lot different than what I normally do. I am going to be comparing this to another vehicle shortly. And obviously I'm going to be doing a few repairs on this. I wasn't planning to upgrade the shocks, but that might be something we have to do on this because there's no sense in just buying more to bend them. But hopefully you enjoyed this little bit of change of pace to the channel. If you haven't driven an RC car in a while, these things, they're not what they were in the early 2000s. They have changed so much. They're so much fun, and the power that you get out of these things is absolutely unreal. But hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you're interested in seeing more like this, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out.